Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror fantasy from South Korea, Korean language English subs, released in the year 2007, directed by Sung-yim, and this movie is called Hansel and Gretel. So Hansel and Gretel is about this man who's crashed on a highway. He wakes up in the woods to find that a little girl has found him. So the little girl says, follow me back to my home in the centre of these woods and my family will take care of you. So this is what he does. He follows her back to the home. He meets the parents of this little girl and her siblings. They all appear very weird, but he has no other options. So in the morning, he says to the family, look, I want to get back to the car so I can flag down the authorities to go back to my worried girlfriend. Can you give me a map? So they give him a map and he tries to get out of the woods, but he keeps getting lost. So after the fourth time he returns back to the home, he starts to realise that something's wrong. That something to do with his house is preventing him from leaving. And so what that thing is and whether or not he can actually find out how to get out of here is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Hansel and Gretel. A lot of people had been talking about this movie, and I don't know why I took so long to watch this film. I just, for some reason, it didn't really appeal to me. But after watching it yesterday, I will say it is definitely worth your time and effort, because it's so much more than just a simple retelling of a very famous fairy tale. So a lot of filmmakers, it would be very easy just to hit you with the visuals that this film has. Now the visuals in this movie are absolutely phenomenal, absolutely breathtaking, and it tells a story of its own. It actually understands what it is to be a fairy tale. It feels like this fairy tale is let from the book and just splashed on the screen in very bright, sort of vivid, saturated colouring, where you've got these over-the-top characters, you've got all this sugar-coated sort of fairyland world, but underneath you've got that sinister sort of tone to it, where it actually feels like it's taking place in a different dimension, and it's got that nightmarish quality. So I also got shades of Baz Luhrmann in this movie. Now, Baz Luhrmann is a completely different style of director, but he has the same kind of striking visuals. So if you are a fan of Baz Luhrmann, you might get a little bit of a reminiscent quality in Sung-yim, and the way he's actually made this film is because it is very in your face, and it actually feels like this is taking place in a different world. So you've got the movie that does keep you captivated, and it's very hypnotic in the way that it actually tells its story through the visuals, and that's what I really liked. And also another thing to add to the ever-growing list of positives to this film was the fact that it does take creative liberties to this story. Now, as I said, it would have been easy to just do a word-for-word retelling where it becomes very predictable and it's just an exercise in technique, but this movie does actually add a few things onto that famous story. So Sung-yim, he's taken the rug from under you and you're never quite sure where he's going with it. And so that's what I loved about it, is that it does feel like a classic retelling, but it actually feels like it's worth something. It's worth more than just a lazy sort of retelling. And so that's something you get with a lot of Korean films, and I think that Hansel and Gretel is just a perfect indication of a director who really had a strong plan, and he's executed those plans to a way where you actually feel you get so much more than just a shallow sort of superficial film that relies on what it looks and basically neglecting its content. So visually, absolutely phenomenal. I thought the acting was very good, especially from the inhabitants of this home. When this main character gets to the home, you start to feel, okay, things are getting very weird. And then the main character, I thought, was the weakest part of the film. I didn't think his character really developed to a point where I really cared about him, but I don't think he was the centre point. Although he was the main character, I think he was the character to actually make the situations keep going forward. But who really steals the show are the children inside this house. And this is where the film really relies on these characters for further development in the last quarter of the movie. And this is where things start to get very, very dark. And that's what I liked about it. Again, as I said, it's got an ever-growing list of positives to the film as you're watching it. And then just when you think you know where this director is taking you, all of a sudden it goes down a very deep and dark road. And this is an incredibly disturbing, a very shocking and very sad film. So on top you've got a very sugar-coated sort of fairy tale world, but underneath you've got a heartbreaking story that grounds these over-exaggerated characters to reality. It drags them down to a point where you can relate to them. So you've got so much quality all of a sudden to these characters that you don't initially have in the first three quarters, because the first three quarters relies very much on the situation. What is this guy stuck? What is going on? Is this house evil? Are the inhabitants evil? Is this a misunderstanding? What is going on? And so you're constantly trying to work that out. But then at the end, when it's revealed what's going on, it does take a different approach, and it does feel like it's taking on a different style of movie. But it doesn't feel like two movies that are kind of conflicting conflicting together. It actually feels like two movies that are gelled in together. It feels like a progression where this movie has evolved into something so much more soul-searching than you would initially think. So you do have that fairy tale sort of approach, but it feels like the fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel is playing second fiddle to a very deep and dark message that the movie wants to portray, and it does it in a very positive way. So at the end of the film, I was left thinking, wow, this is so much more in depth than I thought it would be. It had the impact of a sledgehammer to the stomach. It really hits you hard, and I think that is down to the fact that these characters were so well thought of, and you've got these situations that are very unpredictable, and as I said, it does take you down roads that you're not quite prepared for, and at the end what you get is a movie that you want to go see again, because after everything's revealed, then you can go and watch it again and the movie will have different meaning to you. So it's one of those movies that does have layers. It's so much more than just a superficial sort of fairy tale. Visually, absolutely fantastic, very bizarre, very funny in some areas, but then all of a sudden it hits you with very disturbing material, so be very careful of that. So this is an incredibly impressive film. Not the most brilliant film out there, but it's certainly one of the better fairy tale retellings. So overall, for Hansel and Gretel, going to give it 4 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies and I'll see you later.